To understand the corresponding angles test and its converse, let's look at a diagram. We draw two lines, line P and line Q, which are parallel to each other, and then a transversal which intersects the two lines at two distinct points G and H. The corresponding angles test says that if a pair of corresponding angles formed by a transversal of two coplanar lines are congruent, then the lines are parallel. We have four pairs of corresponding angles formed: EGB and GHD, EGA and GHC, AGH and CHF, BGH and DHF. If any one of these pairs is equal, then the lines P and Q will be parallel. The proof of corresponding angles test is really simple. Assume we are given that angle EGB is congruent to angle GHD. That is, this angle is congruent to this angle. We are assuming that this pair of corresponding angles is equal, and we have to prove that line P is parallel to line Q. The proof has just two simple steps, but before we see the proof, we should try to understand what we are trying to prove. How can we prove that two lines are parallel? We have studied the alternate angles test, which said that if a pair of alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So that's one way in which we can do it. We know that angle EGB is congruent to angle GHD. This is given data. We also know that angle EGB is congruent to angle AGH. So we mark this angle too with the green color. They are vertically opposite angles. Both these angles are equal to angle EGB. From the first two equations, we can say that angle AGH is congruent to angle GHD, and yes, they are alternate interior angles. As the alternate interior angles are congruent, we can say that line P is parallel to line Q. So this was the corresponding angles test. If a pair of corresponding angles is equal, then the lines are parallel. So its converse is obvious. If two lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles formed by transversal are congruent. Let's prove the converse. This time, I'm giving numerical names to angles to save some time. But naming the angles 1, 2, 3 and so on is not recommended. We've been given that line P is parallel to line Q, and the transversal R makes 8 angles. And what do we have to prove? We just have to prove that the corresponding angles are equal. We have to prove that angle 1 is equal to angle 5. This proof is simpler than the previous one. Angle 3 is equal to angle 5 because they are alternate interior angles. Angle 3 is also equal to angle 1 because they are vertically opposite angles. Both these angles are equal to angle 3, which means that angle 1 is equal to angle 5. If lines P and Q are parallel, then the corresponding angles formed by the transversal are equal.